Hey guys, it's Hybrid, and today I'm doing my not Man of Steel, sorry, I'm just joking, Superman reboot, because originally, I guess, I'll be honest with you guys, originally my screenplay for my film was going to be based off the Man of Steel universe, but the more I thought about it, I just decided, hey, why don't I just make my own DC cinematic universe while I'm at it. It's not that hard for me, plus I love doing it, and also I have a really, in my opinion, unique interpretation of Superman. Like this, it is still Superman, and I keep all of the core concepts of the character, but little things like I tweak the history of Krypton a little bit. And the villain of this movie is Brainiac, so stick with me here. This might be a longer video because I typed like about 3 pages worth on this, so I'll try talking about it relatively quickly because obviously I know the longer the video, the less people are going to fully watch it, and I really want you guys to understand this because everything I say is going to go into the Justice League screenplay I'll write. So everything I say from beginning to end is important, especially considering this is the origin story for my Superman. So I think you guys should probably try your best to watch the whole thing. Like always, same images up there, so you can open up a new tab, just listen. All I'm asking is for you to listen to the video. And with that said, let's begin. So the film is called Son of Krypton. If you couldn't tell, Krypton is going to have a heavy part in the film. Now, it's going to take a relatively, I'm guessing approximately the same chunk of screen time as it did in Man of Steel. Hopefully less, hopefully not a little bit more, just because this is a Superman film, and I want to respect the fact that people are coming to the theaters to not watch about Krypton per se, but to watch about Superman. So we start the film with a montage of humanity's achievements, kind of like they did in Pacific Rim, like to bring you up to speed. But this is regarding like technology and things like that. And basically we get to a point where everything gets pretty advanced. And at this point, we start seeing things regarding space, like exploration of space, colonization of space, and even some genetic engineering. Because, as obviously the planet's getting overpopulated, so that's the whole point of the whole colonization thing. But people naturally strive to be better, and that's a very reoccurring topic with genetic engineering is engineering people. So when we get to the future, that does happen. And people have genetically engineered themselves to be stronger, to be faster, to be more durable, intelligent, etc. So basically to be a superhuman, per se. This is far in the future though, and we just have very genetically engineered humans, and at this point we have different programs going on. And one of them is the Krypton program. Now at this point, the programs are named after different elements. So this is how I explain why Krypton has the name Krypton of all names, because you'd think it would have a totally alien name, but my Krypton, if you couldn't tell, partially based off of the Superman Red Sun story arc. So this is in the future. On top of that, because they're already genetically engineering people, but to make them able to colonize worlds more successfully, they've enhanced certain people's physiology even more, like the people going to Krypton. So the people there are enhanced even more to withstand the harsher environments of Krypton, also have higher body temperatures because Krypton is around the red sun named Rao. So if you don't know anything about red suns, they emit less heat. Like they're more luminous, but less heat is emitted from it, so the environments will be colder on that planet. Thus, the people, Kryptonians, I'll just call them Kryptonians now, they've been enhanced to have a higher body temperature so they can withstand that colder environment. Also, since the red sun emits less emits less energy for, I guess, the Kryptonians to take in, they've been enhanced to absorb more energy. Now the way this works is, if you don't know, all living things have an electromagnetic field around their bodies, and all the enhancements did was enhance that so it can collect more energy, store it, etc. Which will go into something later with Superman's powers, but I'm not going to get to it at this moment. So the people go out, they colonize Krypton, become Kryptonians, and obviously they're already very advanced because this is a super advanced Earth in the future, but they're even more advanced now. So due to a lack of natural resources on Krypton, they primarily rely from the get-go on highly experimental nuclear sources of energy for a few hundred years. But eventually this starts irradiating the planet, causing unforeseen reactions. We then cut to a beginner in the science division on Krypton, Jor-El, who's doing tests on the planet's radiation, which has shown to be increasing exponentially, which is troubling. So the leading government of Krypton decides to install a device near the core of Krypton that will hopefully relieve some of the radiation poisoning that's gonna damage all life on Krypton and technically the planet itself. So a few decades later, and you could totally warp this into like a metaphorical thing about damaging the environment, whatever, but going back to the story, a few decades later, it turns out that the device has only stopped radiation from affecting life on the surface of Krypton, but the core of Krypton has been horribly poisoned by this radiation and has become unstable and will soon explode. An older Jor-El, now the head of the science division, talks with his wife, Laura, and they're holding a newborn child. I'm not going to do the Man of Steel thing where they show the newborn baby being born. They have a newborn baby named Kal-El, and basically Jor-El being a father, he's like, I will save my family, I will keep my family safe. So he proposes a way to save the Kryptonian race to the leading government on Krypton, essentially to use an untested type of ship that could theoretically bend space, allowing them to travel long distance in a short amount of time. Because the problem is, it's going to take time to make that ship, so they need to get out of Krypton as soon as possible, and this is a way they see it happening. And the problem is, though, it's not tested, so that's a factor to play, but also the fact that the Kryptonian government has been hiding the fact that Krypton is dying because the public outcry will be immense. Like, Krypton by this point is independent of the Earth governments, so it's its own civilization, its own kind of thing. But at the same time, it still has the same hidden agendas. You can also play upon the modern civilization too, the way modern governments like hiding information. You could play on that too with this, but essentially they decline Jor-El's proposal, and Jor-El decides to send his own family and friends on this ship instead. So obviously they have a smaller ship, and when they're just out of orbit, the planet explodes, causing Jor-El to activate the untested features, kind of like the bending space ones, on the ship, transporting them far away. Now, the explosion messes with that feature, so something odd happens. I'm not going to get upon it later because that's a big revealing point later on in this video. So it's really cool though too. So I promise you, if you stay for the rest of this, it'll pay back. Obviously, when I said friends, also not just his family, so you could easily tie that in for later films if you want to have like Supergirl or Mon-El or and any other Kryptonian pretty much. You can use that thing right there to explain why they could be on Earth and stuff. So they reappear though in our solar system, but the ship is heavily damaged, and parts of it separated, so everyone's not together anymore. That's a problem, obviously, because like I said, the ship is heavily damaged, and it's mostly due to the planet's explosion, and due to that, even a few pieces of the planet is taken with them, which is radioactive because Krypton was radioactive at this time, which is how we're going to get kryptonite. Due to the damage, Laura tries not saving her son, but she tries sharing her oxygen supply with Kal-El because he's a newborn, so his body is not really developed to a point where it could really survive long without oxygen. So Jor-El tries fixing all the internal issues on the ship, but sadly the damage is too extensive that their only option is to get out in an escape pod. The problem with this, though, is that the only available escape pod can fit about 2 people max. And that's a problem because that means either the 2 parents are going to go, a parent and Kal-El is going to go, or just Kal-El. And the parents don't want to leave each other, obviously. It's kind of like an honorable thing. So they decide to send Kal-El with various important Kryptonian objects that hopefully in their minds, when he gets older, he can look at this and he can learn about where it came from, etc. So we then see Kal-El being sent through space, landing in Smallville, etc. You know, the basic origin. I'm not going to touch upon it too much because if anyone's seen Smallville, they pretty much know the whole thing. Like, basically to sum it up, it will be like Jonathan Kent, you know, Clark Kent learns morals and all that stuff, teaches him good, quote-unquote, American values. So take that as you will. I'm trying to be respectful to the comics here. But we then fast forward to Clark in his mid-20s. He was just moved into the city metropolis after finishing college with a degree in journalism, having graduated top of his class with the highest test scores ever seen. Remember, his intelligence, or his brain, or whatever, intellect is naturally enhanced due to the fact that he's Kryptonian. So getting a job at the Daily Planet, writing mainly stories on poverty, crimes, and really not big news stories, because that's reserved for the 3-year Daily Planet veteran Lois Lane, he adopts a persona that won't attract that much attention, just in case his abilities ever accidentally do anything, because it's really smart. In his mind, at least, he wants to create, kind of an more invisible-esque figure, so in case he accidentally uses his super strength on something, or, super speed, or durability, people, if anyone pays attention to it, it's not that many people, and hopefully he could talk his way out of it so it won't be a big deal. And, he could be like, oh, the reason why it seems like I could do this is because this, and, things like that, because he just wants to live a relatively, quote-unquote, normal life. Now, he adopts this persona, like I said, the kind of geeky one with the glasses, etc., and tasked with writing a story on crime's high presence in the suicide slums, Clark goes there and he runs into a few gang members beating up a teenager. Clark intervenes on the attack and helps the teenager. So the way he does it, pretty much, it can be kind of comedic, where you just see all these gang members trying to hit Clark and hurting him, but nothing happens at all. He just kind of is like, what are you doing? He kind of bats them away a little bit, like not killing them at all, but they probably have a few injuries, maybe like a broken arm or so, but nothing too extreme, because Clark has control over, the strength he uses, as he's been living with it his whole life. But obviously, it's much different being in a city than being on a farm in Smallville, Kansas. So he saves the kid, pretty much, I guess to put it lightly. I don't know how to fully explain it, but he saves the kid, and we learn that the teenager is really someone named Jimmy Olsen, who is being mugged because he's been living on the streets for a while, as he doesn't have a job and parents don't take care of him, kind of thing. Like he's a teenager, as in like he's like 18, 19, 20-ish, where he's out of high school, but he didn't go to college because he didn't have enough money and things like that. So Clark, being the type of guy that always wants to help people, offers him an opportunity. So if Jimmy takes pictures for him, Jimmy can stay in the extra room Clark has in his apartment, back in the more nicer part of Metropolis. So Jimmy obviously gladly accepts and starts taking photos for Clark, and for Clark's stories as well, which is great for Clark because he doesn't have to hold the camera anymore. We can see why it would be kind of hard for Clark to always have to hold a camera because of super strength. So if he presses just a little bit too much, he'll break the camera and things like that. So it allows him to focus more on the whole journalism stuff than trying to control his strength while taking photos. And Clark's experience in the suicide slums inspires him to start proactively helping people with his abilities, at least people in danger throughout Metropolis, with a combination of his strength, speed, durability, intelligence, and senses. No, I did not say flight, heat vision, x-ray vision, etc., and I'll get to why later. So eventually, Clark saving people and all that stuff becomes a big enough story that Lois writes about it, titled, "Does Metropolis Have a Superhuman?" as almost all witness accounts describe Clark's amazing abilities. Now, this becomes a very popular story, and people start trying to record his acts, through mobile phones and things like that, creating worldwide viral videos. This continues for about 2 months until a large ship appears from space, which is truly a staged plot to capture the superhuman. And the plan works, and Clark awakes in a strange ship, being scanned among other analyzing devices by a strange being who calls himself Vril Drox. This mysterious figure seems to know a lot about Clark, calling him Kal-El of Krypton, and really confuses Clark. He explains he came to Earth, specifically Metropolis, due to Clark, and he explains that he's collected Earth's most unique civilizations before, take that as you will, Atlantis, and knowledge before, but Clark's presence on Earth brought him back because that's something unique, and he has no, recollection why Clark would be there. And at this moment, at this moment, Vildrox also takes Clark's ship that Clark arrived him, thus allowing him the knowledge why he knows Clark's real name is Kal-El, Krypton, and other things like that. So he asks Clark if he understands where he came from, which Clark responds, he doesn't know much besides that he came from another place, like another planet, things like that. And Vildrox, now called Brainiac by Clark, just due to the fact that he loves collecting knowledge and he's a bit of a brainiac, even though technically that saying came from the comic books, but whatever. But anyways, Brainiac explains Krypton's true origins via analyzing the ship and its materials. So it turns out Krypton is not only another planet, but it's in the future. Like, we as a viewer already knew that because in the beginning we saw the origins of Krypton, but Clark didn't know that. And this is the explanation I have for why Kryptonians look so much like humans. Because to put it in perspective, let's say there's life out there, right? Alien life. First off, them being humanoid is very slim. Then them appearing almost identical or practically identical to humans is even slimmer than slim. And then the fact that Clark's anatomy is basically like a human's, where, like, let's say he looks like a human, there's no, it's very slim he'd be able to sound just like a human, because, different animals, and technically Clark is a different animal than a human, or at least technically in mine he's an enhanced human, but basically the fact that he can sound like a human, look exactly like a human, etc., that is explained in this way. So this is how I explain that. And Clark is being like brain busted, like his mind is being blown by all this knowledge, like this revelation of where he truly came from and his connection to humanity, etc. Like, he truly is the man of tomorrow now at this point. Brainiac also, though, while analyzing Clark, explains Clark's abilities. Like, obviously he has his naturally enhanced abilities like strength, speed, intellect, but he also reveals that due to the enhanced electromagnetic field, Clark technically should be able to do several other things, like heat vision if he focuses enough, X-ray vision if he focuses enough with his electromagnetic field and tries manipulating it, and also flight. We also learn that with this field, because it's easier to subconsciously manipulate it for lifting weight and things like that. This is why Clark already, even though he's naturally strong, that's why he is extremely strong. But Clark never actually tried doing this before, or couldn't do this before, because naturally you wouldn't attempt something like that. Because no one ever goes up to someone and is like, hey dude, you have heat vision, try doing it. Or hey dude, you can fly, try flying. That just doesn't happen, especially when no one else on Earth has that ability at all. So from this, Clark kind of about it, he's able to start manipulating his electromagnetic field to do those things, which is amazing to him. And this is how I explain his other, more fantasy-like abilities. And also, Brainiac gives Clark Kryptonian materials to learn about, which is easy for him with his enhanced intellect. And obviously he gives him Kryptonian attire also, which is odd to Clark. So Clark's like, why are you doing all this for me? Why are you giving me all this information about my origin? Why are you giving me a, clothing from my society, my Kryptonian society, which will be the Superman outfit, by the way. And Brainiac, he's brutally honest with him. He's like, I'm going to collect you, so I want to make sure you have the knowledge of your people and to make sure you look like your people, because when I collect you, you're going to represent your people. So Clark at this moment is like, hell no, man, and escapes via using his heat vision to burn a hole out of the ship, and he flies back to Metropolis. Now, at this point, he's like over Metropolis, kind of floating, and kind of amazed at his abilities, which stuns a lot of people in Metropolis, but also scares a lot of people too, including billionaire Lex Luthor. So that's a brief cameo for him. Before Clark can do much though, like fly away, go somewhere, etc., Brainiac comes back though with a smaller ship than before, sending drones to kill Clark, because I guess if Brainiac can't have Clark alive, he'll have him dead, since technically Brainiac already has a lot of Kryptonian knowledge, and he can just put that on display or something similar to that, like a museum, I guess, to put it in perspective, like a museum. So Clark destroys all the drones, obviously. He tries doing it with as much minimal property damage and injury/deaths of people as possible. Anyways, Lois in the meantime is reporting all of this, with Jimmy taking photos for her, since they can't find Clark, because he's really the superhuman doing all this stuff, the alien, whatever you want to call him. So Clark, tired of seeing Metropolis being damaged because of him, flies straight to Brainiac's ship, taking the fight to him, and we get a great fight. This is a great chance to show the various alien tech that Brainiac has collected over his experience, and that could be a lot of Easter eggs too. Basically, you could show anything. You could show anything from a damaged Green Lantern ring to any other alien artifact in the DC universe. So Clark wins the fight, obviously. Brainiac departs from his smaller ship that he sent there, and he sends it to kind of crash on Earth, because as far as Brainiac's concerned, Clark isn't strong enough to hold the ship up. But Brainiac, after he leaves, he basically underestimated Clark's intellect. So Clark, using his enhanced intellect, finds a way to properly guide the ship to an unpopulated area, so that when it crashes, he tries easing the impact a little bit, but it's still going to crash anyways. So he puts it so it crashes in a place that won't be important and won't cause damage really to anybody, which is smart, and it's caring about people. So the location is in the Arctic, where Clark establishes from the ship a fortress of solitude, and he uses the information, the materials on the ship to really have a place where he can learn more about himself without people's interference and attention, because people just don't go to the Arctic randomly. That's not something you just do. But luckily, because Kryptonians naturally, their physiology is enhanced, he can do that type of stuff. So we then go back to the Daily Planet later on, and Clark is going to work, because he still works there, obviously, and Lois reveals the front page story. Superman saves Metropolis from mysterious alien invasion. So Clark curiously asks, about the name Superman, to which Lois responds, calling him superhuman didn't fit in the title with the rest of the words in there. So Clark responds that he likes the name, and he kind of thinks it's ironic actually, because the House of L symbol he's wearing looks like an S. And at this point, now being a much more public figure that people know about him, people look up to him actually for hope, and he truly is. See, because Superman is always seen as, what people can become, the best of everybody, and he truly is the best of humanity. He is what humanity can become if they strive hard enough. He is truly, like I said earlier, the man of tomorrow. So I'm really trying to touch upon that metaphorically and quite literally in this film. And now a public figure, like I said, he flies off helping people in Metropolis as Superman. So the end there. Now this chronologically takes place later on, after Green Lantern film and after my Batman reboot. I will make a timeline, I guess, later on. So I don't want to make this video super long, because I know if you guys have watched this far, thank you, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll make a sequel to this, obviously. I will do the rest of the Justice League members besides Cyborg in my origin, and Cyborg is not in my Justice League, by the way. Neither is Martian Manhunter, and there's a reason why though. So I'm not trying to disrespect the character. There is a reason why for everything I do. And who knows, maybe I'll put Martian Manhunter back in there. But so far in the plan, the next movies I'll be doing is a Batman sequel, a Flash film, Wonder Woman film, and Aquaman film. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Please subscribe, comment, like, good stuff, and I'll check you guys out later.